number one fan. I'm your number one fan. Gotta understand, I got a plan. Go for what you want, might be what you thought. You gotta take the chance. Gotta understand, I'm your number one fan. Number one fan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition here in the KSN podcast, Kurt Social Network, episode 8. Um, my name is Kurt the Magnificent. I'm the host, and it's been a good journey so far here on the KSN podcast. Shout out to my engineer, Doc Solomon, very good person. He's been putting out stuff for me. He's really helping me dearly. I appreciate him. Thank him very much. We're going to do something a little different tonight. It's just going to be me, but I'm going to engage with you and just bring up some things that I wanted to talk about, something that got me motivated growing up throughout my life. And it's definitely the 90s. I want to talk a little bit about the 90s through this episode. I definitely want to talk about the music of the 90s, and I want to talk about the sports of the 90s. Definitely with the NBA, but we could throw football and baseball as well. So let's start with the music of the 90s if we can, if possible. I want to just, I'm born in the 80s, but that 90s and the early 2000s, mid 2000s, man, that music was beautiful. But that 90s, I just can't forget about it. Grew up in New York. I moved to live down south for a while also. And I got a little taste of all that. That East Coast, that gumbo, that Gumby hip hop, that bubble gum, the knowledge talk was great. And then, I ended up going down south for some years, and I get that dirty south, the ATLs, that sound, that New Orleans sound. I never forget when that was coming in. And you also get that West Coast as well. When you're down south, you get that West Coast. Definitely. I'm going to talk about that right away. So let's get to like that 1990, that 91. That was a period of time, and I hope that my engineer Doc, he probably gonna appreciate this when I talk about this, because that music, man, was just, great. Everybody was still partying, having fun. Seems like, I'm just going off of what I've seen off of videos, off of movies, and off of hearing memories from my mother and my father. Talking about it, my cousins, my older cousins, uncles, aunts, they all talk about it. But the music, I've heard it. That 90s, that LL Cool J, Around the Way Girl, that was bumping. That was a good, if y'all never heard that album, that Mama Say Knock You Out album, man, let me tell you, that was some good music on that album to come into the 90s. Definitely. That rap, that was rap coming into the gangster rap as well. NWA was coming out from the 89 and the 90s, straight out of Compton. Ice Cube, when he, left and moved away from NWA, started doing his own thing. He had that song, Today Was a Good Day. That 90s time was great with that music. Uptown Records, that sound was bumping. Teddy Riley with that New Jack Swing was another evolution at that point coming in, because he had guys still around for a little minute. And but that Uptown sound was different, man. Shout out to Heavy D, rest in peace. Heavy was the beginner with Andre Harrell, really putting it going in them late 80s. But that 90s, man, Heavy D, man, with that Is It Good to You? Now That We Found Love. Great music. Great sound for people to party and dance to in those moments. You still at Uptown. Father MC is coming out. The music is great. It's coming out. He's coming out with that song, Treat 'Em Like You Want to Be Treated. Mary J. Blige is right there. You know that other song that follows. See, I know the song. I know the song. You could do for me, I'll do for. Ah man, I know that song. I can't think of the title right now, but Mary J was in the background. She was getting ready. You know, Puff Daddy, P Diddy, like he was right there behind the scenes, right beside Andre Harrell. You know, getting stuff ready, and you know that R&B sound is starting to pick in, come in. You know, Jodeci's coming out. Jodeci's coming, and P Diddy's got that right there in the mix with him. You know, with I'll Be Sure. It's just a lot, man. That music back then was just beautiful, man. That the 1990s, 91, I'm going to Digital Underground sound, you know, from Oakland, West Coast, definitely. Tony, you know, that R&B again. I'm going hip hop. I'm just going back and forth to hip hop R&B in the years, man. It's just beautiful, beautiful music at a beautiful time. You know, it feels good with Tony. Definitely, yo, you know, female rapper yo. Just too much, man. MC Light, you know, I could go on and on, but that was a beautiful time. Seems like, you know, I'm a young boy, but it just feels like everybody's having fun through the 90s with that music. Going into 91, you know, I brought up Jodeci. Um, you know, Tupac is starting to, you know, be on his own, and he's starting to get a message and a voice as well. 91 was just a time where you saw hip hop with the knowledge was starting to come in and talking too as well. With leaders of the new school, shout out to Busta Rhymes. Um, Great song. Just what was the song PTA? You know, that was a good song. Um, That's another song there too. I can't think of it. I remember the verse. Remember the days when I was walking in talking, do what I gotta do what you want to do. I know you and you know me. Yeah, I'm just rambling, but I'm talking. I'm letting y'all know that was this music that I remember. 91, you know, Jodeci's album Forever My Lady. If you haven't listened to it, you know, if you hit you R&B hip hop sounds, you know you had to listen to that song. A lot of babies was probably made from that that album alone. Come and talk to me. Beautiful music. Beautiful music. Um, 92, Mary J's coming out now. Mary J's coming with her sound. Like it's coming, you know, that real love, feeling good. SWV. Um, Shout out to SWV. My mom's, man, she loved SWV. She loved Mary J. Loves that music was just growing, man. I get so weak. I'm so into you. That new Jack Swing sound is still bumping, but it's that R&B soul that's really coming in now at this point. You know, with the hip hop now also making their scene as well. Um, Hip hop, you had 92 at that time. You had oh man, they're a group that I really liked a lot, and I cannot think of their name, but they had some good music. I can go to the West Coast with Dr. Dre. Snoop Dogg is coming out now. Dr. Dre already came from NWA, but now Snoop is coming. You know, the sound from West Coast and you know the East Coast. You know, back then with that East Coast stomp. You know, people remember Ziggy. Y'all remember Ziggy? Them dudes from Harlem, Brooklyn. Come on now, if y'all remember them. Listen, music, man. This is where historians know, and we can talk and share about it. It's memories. You know, I've heard people tell me back in the day, like sometimes sounds and songs that they heard, they take them back to a moment, you know, in their life that they can't forget. And that was me. Those sounds, you know, in the 90s. Like I was in the car listening to those sounds. My pops had the either the CD play, the CD joints, or he had the cassette player, the cassette tapes. He had that. So I was listening to that music that was coming out. All right, 93. Now, you know, we get into, you know, we got the Timbos already. We got the jeans, you know, getting a little baggier, the shirts. Yeah, the hockey shirts is coming out. Um, Man, 93, that was a good year because now Biggie is starting to make Notorious B.I.G. Biggie, starting to make a sound for himself. Um, You got guys that's really like making some noise, like Wu-Tang Clan is about to get ready to come out from Staten Island out there. Brooklyn was there with Biggie, you know, and you had something going on, in music. Shout out to Westchester, Pete Rock, CL Smooth, man, they was doing their thing as well, definitely. Good music. And like I said, just the music was just growing and growing in the 90s. 94, Tupac is even getting bigger and bigger, even though he got in that little trouble. Tupac is just still making that good music, 94 with Biggie coming out with the Ready to Die. But Tupac from 93 into the 94, 95 is just, man, beautiful music that was coming out at that point. The R&B, with Tony Braxton now making us sound coming from that baby face. It's just music that was coming on that was really great at this moment. I forgot about Silk, 92 coming 93. Key Sweat, shout out to Key Sweat, getting Silk in there. that I just love that music. 94 now going to 95. We get Monica, Brandy's coming in now. We getting the group still around. Faith Evans. You getting that sound of R&B. You getting the male groups. Y'all know about Solo? Shout out to Solo. All right. There was a good group. All right. Good group. Cut Close. Another Key Sweat group. So you had that music that was feeling real good, and we was feeling good about ourselves, talking about things that was going on in life, but also give us a message at the same time. TLC, shout out to TLC as well. Hip hop at that moment. Nas is coming out, Jigga the J, Jigga the A, the Y, the Z, Jay-Z coming out, that fast flow coming to the slow flow, in this era with Nas coming in, giving us that knowledge as well. The 96, Junior Mafia coming around, but Little Kim makes her statement, If you ain't seen that album cover from that 96. Little Kim, man, let me tell you something, man. She really, female rappers was out, Shout out to Queen Latifah for MC, like I said again. But Little Kim, man, changed it with the female rapper game, making it more sex appeal at a point with that, which was great. And then you had other groups. So it was called Total was coming out. Shout out to Case. And then Mace is getting ready to come on the scene. Mace, Diddy's doing his thing still, getting people out there. And then 97, go back to 96, rest in peace, Tupac, everything that happened in Vegas, then 97, then Biggie, he go down, he go down in Cali. But his music is still flourishing. But then you have groups that's coming out, 97 that's making noise. Drew Hill, everybody talk about that, yeah, I'm talking about that Step by Drew Hill. Definitely that. Yeah, Brand Nubians. I can't forget about Brand Nubians from New Row. Definitely. God throw them in there. That was the early 90s, They was doing anything. They even had some joints in the mid 90s too with Grand Poobah. Shout out to Grand Poobah. Definitely. This music was there, man. Music was there. 97, Missy Elliott, shout out to Genuine, Montel Jordan. Man, it's just the music was just there. 98 with Maya coming on the R&B scene. It's just a lot that was going on, but it was a good time in a life. Now I'm a kid. I'm still growing. I'm growing. A kid growing into a teenager eventually. That music is right there with me, and I miss it so much. Even going to the end of 99, you had groups like oh man, I can't think of their name right now. Black, Blaque, and then yes, so we're gonna get into that Cash Money definitely. Cause now I'm in the South now, and that No Limit, yes, that Cash Money Millionaires. Um, you know, People talked about them, but they weren't really getting noticed. And then all of a sudden, them songs started pushing out. Juvenile, that back that thing up, back that thing up. Let me tell you, that was a good, good moment for them because that's what got them going. And I can't forget about DMX. You know, Darkman X. I can't forget about him. All right. Shout out to YO, Yonkers. Definitely put Yonkers on the map for real. Hip hop. When Locks coming in. So music at that time was beautiful. Just wanted to give my moment and let y'all know how I felt about those 90s, times with music. Was appreciative. You know, I think those artists and those producers and those engineers, y'all really made it. It was fun to hear that music at that time. We needed that. So thank you. Yeah, I want to get into the NBA. Talk about basketball, sports in the '90s. Um, Definitely, Chicago Bulls has always been the team in the '90s. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, the first time, and then Dennis Rodman comes on the second three-peat. So it's amazing what Jordan did retire the first time in '93 in that '94 year, and half the '95 year he wasn't around. That was like other teams' opportunity to try to get a ring, to get on top. And the only one that got on top in the '90s was Hakeem Olajuwon and our Houston Rockets. He was definitely the best big man in the '90s by far. He was the best big man in the '90s. He was the best by far. You had Shaq Young still, but coming in his own when he eventually, from into Orlando to LA. Patrick Ewing was a good. He was the beast of the East in the '90s, no doubt. Good best shooting big man center in the '90s. But now, Hakeem Olajuwon, man, he was something else, man. Footwork and everything. Um, and like I said, you had other teams in the '90s that were good. You had um, he had the San Antonio Spurs with David Robinson. Man, like I said, Orlando with Shaq and Penny Hardaway, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott. Denver Nuggets, they had some moments in the '90s with the Dikembe Mutombo, definitely. Um, Dikembe Mutombo, shout out to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, aka Chris Jackson, from LSU back in the day, shooting machine in college, score. NBA was good too, but not as good in college. So, yes, Charlotte Hornets. That teal jerseys back then, Charlotte Hornets, fire, fire. Let me tell you something. Him, Larry Johnson, LJ. Shout out to LJ. He was a Nick too. Um, it was just you had some good teams that was coming out in those moments. The Indiana Pacers, Reggie Miller, of course, the Nick Killer. Can't forget those moments with Reggie Miller being the Nick Killer in the '90s. Definitely. Um, and he had some guys with him. He had Mark Jackson who went there. He was a Nick as well. Went to Indiana and couldn't wait to torch us, help Indiana win. Shout out to Rick Smits, Duncan Dutchman, Rick Smits. If y'all know about that, take a look at Rick Smits, man. Definitely was a nice. He was another good center too, but definitely wasn't near Olajuwon yet. At that, he wasn't good center though. Can't front. Um, and you had the Miami Heat. Now Miami Heat early '90s with Glenn Rice. Man, Glenn Rice, Steve Smitty definitely was good. Shout out to them guys in the early '90s with Miami, the mid '90s, and then the late '90s with Alonzo Mourning coming over there with Timmy Hardaway, definitely the killer crossover Timmy. They had some good pieces over there. Miami, Pat Riley went over there, left the Knicks, and trying to form that up. And thank God my Knicks was able to, we were able to get them almost every time. One time we did not get them, and that was because of that brawl that happened with PJ Brown, Charlie Ward in '97. We would have got them that year. We were gonna play the Bulls that next series, definitely. But of course, the brawl take all our players away. In Game 7, Tim Hardaway, man, had probably one of the best career playoff games I've ever seen from him. He had like 5'3", 6'3". He was hot. He couldn't miss anything. He had over 30. Really good. Tim Hardaway, man. Shout out to Tim Hardaway, for real. He was on the Warrior team in the early days with Chris Mullin, um, Mitch Richmond, early, Latrell Sprewell. Shout out to Latrell. He was a Knick eventually. Yeah, those were some good times, man. NBA. Seattle Supersonics, Gary Payton. Sean Kemp. Yeah, uh, moments that you won't ever, ever forget. Portland Trailblazers with Clyde the Glide Dragons with Terry Porter, Buck Williams, Jerome Kersey. Phoenix Suns with Charles Barkley, KJ, Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, hitting them threes from downtown if he wasn't dunking. Yeah, good times, NBA in the 90s. Definitely. Definitely. Philadelphia was coming in late in the 90s with Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was making his presence very, very known. Very known. Um, you had a point where the Dallas Mavericks had a good team in the mid 90s but couldn't put it together. They had three young guys, Jason Kidd, Jared Jason Kidd, Jimmy Jackson, and Jamal Mashburn. Shout out to Jamal Mashburn from New York, from the BX from the Bronx. You had you had a good team in Dallas, but they couldn't figure it out. They could not at all. Just couldn't work. And they go disperse and they end up having better careers at other places. Um, you also talk about the Sacramento Kings, the late 90s, Chris Webber coming over there and forming in the late 90s with Vlade Divac, um, White Chocolate, Jason Williams. Man, that was a good time, man. In the 90s, the NBA was great. It was hard to beat Michael Jordan, man. The Chicago Bulls. It's hard to beat those Bulls. They figured out how to beat those Pistons in the late 80s. I mean, sorry, they couldn't beat the Pistons in the late 80s, but then they had to figure out, and they finally got them in the 90s. When the 90s came in, that's what happened. Shout out to my man R. Kelly. I don't know how I forgot about him. Born into the 90s. R. Kelly's first album. He was definitely coming into the 90s, making some great music. I love R. Kelly music. I don't care if anybody say I love that band's music. Great music. And that's what the Bulls were doing, coming into the 90s, making a presence in the 90s that nobody will ever forget. I'm glad I ranted about the 90s, man. That was a time in my life where I was growing up as a kid, coming to teenage, but learning. Even movies, Juice, Don't Be a Menace, Menace to Society, Boomerang, More Money. Just movies that was just out too that will give you some influence, but also give you some education at times too. At the same time, a lot of Spike Lee joints, definitely some Spike Lee joints that were really, really good. That was showing us HBO series. Definitely was coming out, really giving us some knowledge. Showing us what was going on out there in the streets and the world that we were looking at. Yeah, Players Club. How to be a player. Yeah, some interesting movies that came out back then, but it was great. You had some inspirational movies, Lion King, the Jackson series. You had movies that would come up that was trying to teach us Space Jam. Showing us that we could have a good time, have fun, educational as well. You had that. So, man, the 90s is great. That was my rant for the 90s. All right, this episode. Just wanted to get out there. Football, I could go all with Jerry Rice, Steve Young, and the 49ers. Dallas Cowboys, of course. I'm going to give y'all praise, with Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, and Michael Irvin. Baseball, definitely. Yankees in the end of the 90s, definitely. Yankees. Paul O'Neill, Bernie Williams, David Cone, yes, Andy Pettitte, Derek Jeter. I'm going to throw that them Yankees, man. Yankees was at the end of the 90s. That was the Yankees. Yankees took that. They definitely did. The end of the 90s. Now, 96 to 99, they took that. They didn't get there in 97 because they lost to Cleveland. Cleveland had a good all-star team. Shout out to the Cleveland Indians. Back then, they were Cleveland Indians. Good all-star team. Roberto Alomar, Sandy Alomar Jr. Good all-star team. Ken Griffey Jr. with the Seattle Mariners, man. Yo, you wanted to be like Griffey if you were playing in outfield growing up as a baseball player in the 90s. That's what you talk about, King Griffey Jr. Yeah. 90s is good, man. Yeah. Listen, we're going to have more stuff coming on with the KSN podcast. I want to thank everybody for watching, tuning in. And this is another great special edition from the Kurt Social Network. I'm Kurt the Magnificent. Peace, love. You already know.